May have gotten off to a rocky start, but the campaign for Eden-Monaro's by-election is now well and truly underway. Liberal candidate Fiona Kotvojs has been given a second chance after she narrowly lost the seat to Mike Kelly at last year's general election. At the recent Liberal Party preselection, she received the overwhelming endorsement of locals, and with a flurry of visits from the PM and Treasurer in recent days, she's now hit the road campaigning ahead of the by-election on July 4. Fiona Kotvojs joins me now from Canberra. Fiona, I have to say I've looked at a lot of candidates in my time. You've got an exceptional background for a marginal seat. You're a local farmer, you've been in the Army Reserves, volunteer firefighter. We'll get to fires in just a minute. I've got to go through this. Started your career as a school teacher. You've got a doctorate in education, an MBA, strong science credentials. Goodness me, why politics?
Look, for me, my community shaped who I am. And as a result of that, I really want to give back to the community. So I have a lot of experience, what you said. I've also worked in small business. And we need to rebuild our community and work in the long term. The skills that I've brought and gained over the last 20 years mean that I'm able to work for our community and help us rebuild, be a really strong voice in government and work towards having a sustainable future for our communities.
Labor's candidate Kristy McBain, she's had a few weeks head start, and obviously she avoided some of the messy start that the Libs and the Nats have had. I'm keen to know, look, has that Canberra sort of issue even registered in the seat? Has it been something that's been raised by locals with you, or are other issues more front of mind for them?
When you've gone through as much as our electorate has gone through in the last 6 months, I think what politicians do is probably the least highest priority amongst people. People are really concerned about recovery, about rebuilding, and that's what I hear about. People on the ground don't ask me about anything to do with the start of it. It's gone. What they want to know about is what's actually going to be done. How are we going to rebuild? How are we going to move forward from where we are? They want to hear what can be delivered and how we can rebuild our communities, and that's what's critical. I also believe that for most people, they recognise that the Liberal Party, we had a selection process where every member in the party got to choose who they wanted to represent them, and they chose me. That's a really strong contrast to what happened in Labor, where a person was just appointed. While democracy might be a messy process at times, democracy is really important, and it's something that I think most people support.
Look, I need to tell my viewers, your farm was burnt during the Black Summer bushfires. I'm told you're still waiting on a fencing grant. You'll correct me if I'm wrong there. What's been the front of mind issues of victims coming out of these fires? Are they cranky that things haven't been returned to normal as quickly as it is? Are they hit also by COVID? What's the sort of priorities that you want to see and would see if you were elected?
So it's really mixed. You've got a lot of people where things went through quite quickly and they're quite happy with the process and where they're at now. But then you've also got people who, for one reason or another, it's been a slower process. I think one of the important things to remember is that in Bega and in Eurobodalla council areas, the fires were only declared out on the 4th of March, which is 3 months ago. And until then, the focus was really on getting the fires out. There's been a lot of work in recovery. We would all like it to be much faster than it's been. COVID-19's been a constraint on that because people had to be pulled out in terms of the support to the communities, and that's had to be withdrawn. That's coming back now, and so that's a really important element. We'll have face-to-face support which will be able to deal with many of those issues more quickly. We'll have support for the mental health issues which are emerging and will continue to emerge for a while as a consequence of the fires and of COVID-19. But the really big issue, people want to see us rebuilding, they want to see recovery and moving forwards. They want their businesses to be back up and operational. They want farms to be back up and operational. Dealing with the timber industry, which in many places has been destroyed. In terms of the orchards, you know, I've met with orchardists and it's really heartbreaking listening to their stories. I met with one fellow last week and his whole farm, all of the trees, just absolutely destroyed because the fire came in from the council areas. You know, where do you start? So that's really the key thing, rebuilding.
All right, well,
And for
those
me, I guess,
outside... Sorry?
so I was just going to say, one of the really critical things there that I see the role of the federal member, or my role would be, is to get a vertical integration between federal, state and local governments, because a lot of the delay has been a consequence of lack of coordination between those three areas.
Yeah, well,
for example,
I was trying to make the point there for people who are at home. They mightn't understand your would-be seat that you're campaigning for, Eden-Monaro, for those outside of New South Wales. It's a whole series of little villages. I mean, there's a big urban centre in Queanbeyan, which is just outside the suburban edge of Canberra, but basically it's a lot of little country, coastal and mountain communities, little country towns, and that's one of the challenges in service delivery. I mean, what would be your number one or number two priorities getting to Canberra? What would you want to see done straight away?
So we need to look at how we're going to get our jobs back and get the economy going again across the area. And that's the economy for farming, the economy for small businesses. You know, small businesses are what really drives employment across the electorate. Small businesses are the heart of our communities. They're what creates communities, keeps them going. So for me, the highest priority is looking at what our small businesses need to move into the next 12 months and the longer term. A lot of that is going to be reducing red tape. You know, one of the issues, for example, that slowed the recovery down has been that the councils haven't been able to provide information and the lists of people who've been affected by the bushfires to the other charities, to other levels of government for privacy concerns, and that's a real constraint. We've got a lot of small businesses who talk to me about the constraints that they experience. You know, I've got one who's waiting on a DA 14 weeks, same sort of business in the same building, just wants to do a little bit of development before he opens it. So getting rid of all of the red tape and making that process much smoother is going to be critical. Improving infrastructure, improving our communications, they're the things that are really important for this electorate.
Well, good luck. I know that campaigning in winter's tough at any time, let alone in that mountain region you've got in the south of your electorate. But all the very best, Fiona Kotvojs, and thank you very much for joining us on Sky tonight.
Thank you for having me, Peta.